So let's take a quick look at building your own ESG portfolio. Let me share my screen with, yeah. So here's our site where we, is makemyfund.in. We essentially uh, enable you to build customized funds, right? So one of them is MyEthics, as we call it. So to be clear, we call it MyEthics and not ESG, because we do believe that there are other considerations. So we'll see how in one of them specifically, ITC would actually get thrown out. Uh, so here you can, for example, look at building a fund which is, you don't need to be equally concerned about environment, social impact, and governance. You can say, I don't care about social impact much. I only want to focus on governance uh, and environment. Or you can say, India governance is anyway questionable, so I don't want to do that. Let me just focus on environment. So it's predominantly this. Let's say you get a balance view, which is, so my own personal preference is a lot more to do with environment, a little bit of social impact, a little bit of governance, not too much. Here we added a couple of ethical criteria, so which can go hand in hand with it or override them. So patriotic is if you believe that defense and country building industries are your thing, then you can close all of these and just say I want to invest in a patriotic portfolio, which will be essentially defense, infra, and so on. And here's where I think ITC would go out. So in these three criteria, ITC won't suffer so much. But if you do health focused, then ITC would go out of the window because it's cigarettes. Likewise, alcohol will go out, and a lot of sugary drinks producers will go out as well. So it sort of depends on what is your ethical inclination, and accordingly you can design a portfolio to reflect that. Here I'm sticking to the conventional ESG portfolio, slightly more geared towards environment. This is only for completeness sake, Sharia and Sattvic. So Sattvic is the Hindu version of Sharia as we created. Sharia is the conventional Sharia law, which says no banks, no NBFCs, no borrowing, no lending, no alcohol, gambling, or other such sin industries. Currently, these are 1-0. They are negative screens. These are tails. So I've obviously not applied these. Currently, we're just building an ESG fund. So for that demonstration, I'm sticking to these three. So in this case, you essentially get a set of sectors that this tilt implies. For example, the big impact is on carbon, black chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, and agrochemicals, all on account of the environmental damage that they do. Some industries are affected a little bit lesser, like cement, oil, refineries, sugar, cycles for obviously health and environment reasons superior, airlines and all getting negative. Railway wagons positive because they're environmentally friendlier than this thing. Some NBFCs, especially in microfinance, are positive. Term lending for infra building and so on. Cigarettes, tobacco is slightly averse, if you can see here. Medical equipment is positive, insurance is positive, so on and so forth. What we are essentially enabling is you can alter this and say, look, this is IT software does far more than what you're given here, so let's increase it. So that goes to the upper box then, where you can see here that IT is now come here. And you can say, diesel engines are far more important to us than the environmental damage they cause. So I'm just going to reduce it. So if you make it low, this will go out of this, you can see, it went out of this box, went further down, and so on and so forth. So you can change all of this and say, it's my ESG fund, I want to customize it. So you can modify the sector allocations. Next is you build a portfolio now. The crucial step here is to check how this portfolio did historically. So we're just waiting for it to load. So you see this Petronet, LNG, Indraprastha gas, etc., slightly more friendlier than coal-fired power plants and all that. That's why they show up here. Then you have Infosys, TCS, HDFC Life Insurance, so on and so forth. So just to be clear, it's not entirely environment. So you'll still see some other environmentally not so friendly companies. Now here's the performance, which is a crucial thing I want to show today. This strategy performs at 14.1% per annum, and the benchmark returns for the same period at 12.3% per annum. Over a 2007 to 2020, it's almost a 14-year period. The performance continues to be good in 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, and all. And year on year also, you can see each year the returns are actually fairly decent vis-a-vis. So they're not dramatically different from the benchmark, but they are superior across the board. And even the last 1 year, last 5 years, and the full period, it is done consistently. Do next year, it will take you to execution page, and you can actually see, you can log in with the existing broker and execute the transaction, get those stocks in your demat, and treat it as a e-fund, as we call it, the electronic version of a fund, not a mutual fund. But you built it yourself, and so that's your ESG fund, if you will. So I invite you to check it out and tell us some feedback about what works, what doesn't work. So